mean, some of us, while we're scrolling, might see an ad and we say, I was just thinking about that or talking about that. And it's been inserted.
Yeah.
And that's low-hanging fruit. But there's some, I guess, is it Black Mirror, the show?
Yes.
You can go down that. You can go down that road.
Yeah.
But I think we have an opportunity right now. Like you say, these technologies are intersecting or merging, and I call it the great convergence. And we can't really predict what that will look like or what technologies will be born out of this consolidation of all of these technologies coming together, because we haven't even talked about quantum yet.
This is Inspiring Design, where unique innovators come together to share their knowledge, share their insight, and keep us up to date with the latest industry trends. And here's your host, Rashan Senanayake.
Season 5 is live and hot, hitting record streams and downloads more than ever before. So welcome back to another informative episode of Inspiring Design, featuring some of the best minds speaking about the latest emerging technologies. Today is all about blockchain. And to speak about this, I have here with me Amy Rose Goody. She's the Dynamic Managing Director of Blockchain Australia, soon to be known as the Digital Economy Council of Australia. She joins us to explore the cutting-edge world of digital assets and blockchain technology. With her extensive expertise in strategic planning, policy advocacy, and stakeholder engagement, Amy Rose leads the transformative initiatives that shape the future of our digital economy. Her diverse background in justice, medtech, education, and telecommunication adds a very unique perspective to her work. Passionate about collaboration and inspired by the principles of Ubuntu, I am because we are, Amy Rose offers some compelling insights into how blockchain is revolutionizing the future of industries. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. Welcome to Inspiring Design. All right. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here. As usual, can we start off with a little bit of your story? What's your background?
My background is quite varied. So I have been in disability services, justice and human rights. I went into telecommunications for about 5 years. Then I became a building designer.
Wow.
So I'm a building designer by trade. I'm not that old, I promise. You can't see me, but I'm not 60. And then I eventually, after buying Bitcoin, went into blockchain.
Yep. Well, there you go. Bitcoin is usually the same thing that people associate as being a part of the blockchain technology. So we'll get into a little bit of that. But coming from an architectural background, I actually want to know, what did you do with building design?
So my partner and I ran a construction company, which was in the flooring industry primarily.
Right.
And I wanted to be more, I guess, qualified so that we could have a better business, and I would be able to run a lot of the project management and also go into my own design business eventually.
Yeah.
So I did do my studies and completed that. It was actually towards the end of my degree where I was asked to do an assessment on what the future of design looked like.
Yeah, wow.
And I did a lot of research on engineering and robotics and how automated house building would be in the future. And because I love technology and I come from a technology background, my assignment was all about 3D printed housing and Japan particularly, and
that's awesome.
And how the world is moving to that automated design process. So during that process, I started to go into emerging technologies, and other things happened as well. But building design primarily was to solve a problem that I had in our own business lives at home, where I wanted to be an expert in that particular domain. So that was all fine and dandy until I bought Bitcoin, I guess.
Fair enough. I feel like there's a bit of a story there.
Yeah.
And it's really exciting, the building ones, because literally the next episode is on building 2.0. So that kind of technology, but in a bigger scale in Australia, what's actually happening. So you, I think, onto something and saw those trends really earlier on. So before we get into the crypto stuff, because the focus is blockchain, can you describe in layman terms what exactly is the blockchain?
Blockchain is the foundation or the infrastructure for a lot of applications, and one of those applications is cryptocurrency, or Bitcoin as most would know. The technology was more exciting to me than one of the applications, which was Bitcoin originally. It is exciting to me because I come from, like I said, a ethical justice, human rights sort of ideology. And when I discovered the underlying technology, which was trustless, immutable, secure, and decentralized, I thought that I had found the holy grail to the future of I guess, Society 6.0, I think Japan is calling it at the moment.
Yeah, there you go. So it's, from my understanding, it's data you can only add to, right? So what that means is, based on my understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is it goes on to this existing centralized data set almost, and people keep adding to it, so it's almost hard to remove a block. Is that a way of explaining it?
It is. That's one way of explaining it. And so the analogy that I usually use is it's like your old school ledger or a notebook where you record your data or your transactions. However, you need to imagine it as a digital ledger now.
Yeah.
A digital ledger where millions of people all around the world have the same copy of that notepad.
Yeah.
Every time you write something in it, a million other people can see the same thing.
Yeah.
And you can't change it because everyone would have to agree that you're allowed to change it. So that is absolutely impossible.
Yeah.
Once that notepad is full, then another notepad gets added to that, and that, just imagine those notepads as blocks.
Yeah.
They're immutable, you can't change them. Like you said, it's the addition of data into a piece of technology. It's that technology, that infrastructure, that means the future of all sorts of technologies can leverage and be secure and transparent and decentralized.
Absolutely. And I can see how doing some initial research on blockchain, like the stuff you can find on Google, basically, the finance sector is the one that's absolutely loving blockchain tech. And someone I had one of the recordings in season 1 was with the Queensland chief entrepreneur, and she was part of Everledger and was like miles ahead of her time when it came to blockchain. So it was really interesting to see how this kind of tech is being applied in different firms. One of the common questions, especially with, let's say, the current generation, is this crypto, right? How does blockchain relate to crypto?
So crypto, digital assets, tokenized assets, all of these things are applications that are built on blockchain. They're built on blockchain because we need some of those features that you can't have with other money. So with Bitcoin, for example, you have a set amount of Bitcoin or tokens or Satoshis. So it's about supply and demand, right?
Yeah,
so you can print as much money as you want in Australian dollars, or the Federal Reserve can. Whereas with Bitcoin, there's 21 million. You're not going to be able to print anymore or add anymore because that blockchain is programmed to not be able to add any more blocks once it reaches that maximum. So essentially, because you know that there's a set number, you know that the value of that is going to increase over time, where everyone can have a fraction of a Bitcoin, or whoever has bought it.
Yeah.
Good luck to those who would like a little piece of that now. So there's that nature, but there's also the decentralized nature where you can't change a transaction if you feel like it. So you can say this event happened. I did transfer some of this crypto at this particular time. You can't see what the purchase was for, but you can prove, because it's not like a normal notepad or a bank account where some staff member can go in and scrub it or remove it or delete your account, because you own it. It's all yours and you get to manage that. It's a very different way of thinking, and it's really hard for people to sort of move to that, where they're a lot of the times moving into crypto where you have to manage everything yourself. You have to learn all the procedures that are in place for protecting your crypto. Yeah. And you have to move away from the bank has my money, they own it. If something happens, that they're responsible. So all of the responsibility
sits with you.
Yeah. And humans have to change their mindset when it comes to that. But I think we've got around 5 million Australians now have crypto in some way, shape or form.
There you go. But I think you raised the valuable point there of you do need that mindset shift, because it's you responsible for your financial security. So if you're getting into crypto without almost financial literacy and understanding of these things, it could be very, very risky actually. So I can see how it's attractive, but people can fall into it as a bit of a pitfall as well. Interesting. Like, obviously, crypto can be a whole episode by itself. Yeah. Going back to blockchain, do you think this is a technology that's here to stay, and why do you think it's important for the future?
So originally when I came into the space, it was an emerging technology. Then it moved to disruptive. So it was disrupting all verticals, all different industries. Now it is commonly known as a foundational technology. And a foundational technology can be used across any industry. Yeah. So the fact that it's being implemented, so it can be implemented in an old, the supply chain. That's a very common, that's a use case. You probably heard that with Everledger. Yeah. Knowing the origin of a particular product. And I've had multiple different conversations of late, particularly around food and organics and what's the process? How can you prove that unless you go grab it from someone's tree? So there's the use case there, and that's remained for 5 or 6 years. That's been the mainstay of conversation. But it's also moving as one of those technologies that other technologies are leveraging from. And so within tech stacks, you're able to see that there's a bit of AI in an IoT tech stack, and blockchain's in there for its own use case. So for example, data. We're moving into a world where data is probably going to be a currency, and you can buy and sell different components of data for marketing purposes or whatever.
I mean, that's been around for almost 20 years now.
Yeah, that's right. Except we haven't owned our data.
True.
So there is a move to that ownership, and we know that you can track and trace where data comes from because it's on our devices, it's on our person. And that consent and that willingness to be able to monetize data is now becoming, I guess it's a light bulb moment in a lot of people's heads where they're like, I know that you're using my data and you're listening to me and you're selling to me and you're selling to all my friends because we're communicating. So there's this abundance of data that's out there that's being monetized by companies, whereas now we have an opportunity because we have the technology, we've got AI now, to be able to own that data. And one of the things I think with respect to digital ID, and so the New South Wales driver's licenses, the foundational technology there is blockchain. It's because it's an immutable record keeper of who owns what, at what time, what date, when did you get your driver's license? Yeah. Is that certified? Is it? Does it have the tick of approval from the New South Wales government? Queensland's obviously moving into it too, and all the other states will follow suit with a number of different digital ID providers. But essentially, there is an acknowledgement that data will be kept on our person in an app. So the data needs to be validated by, for example, if you have a driver's license, that needs to be validated by whoever issued that driver's license and stored. So the data that we own, and it might come down to the location data and Google Maps and, you know, it knows where your whereabouts and it's tracking and tracing and logging. That's all on Google. But how secure is it? And should we manage our own data? And should we be able to monetize our own data? And so in the future, it might be that the value of this information can be held with the user.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of different platforms. It might be self-sovereign ID, which is a bit different to the centralized ID that the government might use. So there's currently an evolving data space at the moment as we learn to
manage it, I guess, because I think even with AI, it's a pattern that I'm seeing with all quote unquote emerging tech, right?
Yeah.
It's all merging, and at the same time they're moving so rapidly, and we're kind of like figuring out how to walk and how to run and what does jumping look like. And one of the biggest things that I've kind of witnessed with this space is how unknown what we're trying to do is, and there's no laws. So that's where the scary part is. And you know, while you were even sharing the whole driver's license thing, one of the common things that people immediately start to think about is this whole concept of Big Brother. I don't want to be tracked and I don't want to be watched everywhere. What do you think about that? Because of your background as well, you might have an interesting opinion on it. What do you think about, is that a good thing? Is it a bad thing? What are your thoughts?
I don't think that we're going to live in a world in the future where data won't be tracked and traced, because all of our devices, including our fridges, our cars, our phones, our laptops, this microphone, our CCTV, everywhere we go, they will know who we are and where we are at any given time. But that is also a privacy concern. There's ethical concerns around who's storing it. Should they know where I was? And should they be allowed to leverage from all of these all of these systems talking to each other? Should they be allowed to extract that to market to us?
Yeah.
And there's also a problem with inserting into our lives what someone else thinks should be inserted, and we aren't ever aware of it. Some of us, while we're scrolling, might see an ad and we say, I was just thinking about that or talking about it, and it's been inserted. And that's low-hanging fruit. But there's some, I guess, is it Black Mirror, the show?
Yes.
You can go down that. Road.
Yeah.
But I think we have an opportunity right now. Like you say, these technologies are intersecting or merging, and I call it the great convergence. And we can't really predict what that will look like or what technologies will be born out of this consolidation of all of these technologies coming together. Because we haven't even talked about quantum yet, and we haven't. And so everything, once that matures and becomes a technology that we can plug into our tech stacks and speed up our operations and processing, once that happens, platforms, technologies and processes and software will be born out of just ideas, and we'll just be able to speak to our computer and just say, I really need this tool because of whatever my business problem is. Please build it, and we'll build it. It'll install it into your computer and you can use it straight away. Yeah. That will happen in the blink of an eye, and we are slowly moving in. And I said this about 10 years ago. I started this educational platform called Future Blackboard, and that was about 6 years ago. And I tried to educate people around future technologies. And even then I was saying 10 years from now, there's going to be the great convergence. And that is where, like you say, we can't prepare for anything in the future. We can try and build some frameworks about what to do and what not to do, and try and protect consumers and people and society. but through chaos, people, things will break.
Yeah.
Things will really
Absolutely.
break. Yeah.
Do you think as a human race, though, we're equipped for this, or is this almost like uncharted territory, but the invention of the knife, for example, is something I always go back to when we talk with teachers, right? In the hands of a beautiful person with a creative mind, it could be creating amazing food and creating amazing artwork and sculptures and things. But in the hand of a homicidal, crazy person, it might do some absolute bad damage. And the power of these tools, we don't even know the extent of it. And I was kind of listening to this recent interview on Elon Musk, and this concept of quantum and AI combining, right? So you're 100% right with this convergence. It's something that I've been always saying as well. They are merging. Virtual reality and augmented reality was separate, but they're merging. AI is going to be a part of that, absolutely. Gaming industries are using it. So all of these things are coming together for sure. But is that a good thing?
Like it's that picture that I paint. There's nothing we can do to stop it because humans are curious creatures.
Yeah.
And we are constantly trying to build. We love building. We also have this tendency to destroy as well at the same time.
Absolutely,
simultaneously. But I think we are absolutely equipped. What needs to happen though is there are different. So I also come from a med tech background and brain computer interfaces. The medtech and digital assets and blockchain and quantum, they are all needing to be managed by regulators. So government is saying across all of these industries, we need to protect people. And with the pharmaceutical industry and the medical industry, it's always been that underlying, I guess, the foundation of all is to protect people.
Yeah.
So the problem that we have there is that it's a very slow old process. Government at the moment is very archaic. It's very slow to regulate and to prepare society for technology. So a lot of the time what happens is they say, no, you're not allowed to, and then innovation stops.
Yeah.
So the only thing I can see is to stopping it would be that the government says you're not allowed to build anymore. Humans still secretly build. And, but look, technology is neutral. Okay, you can build whatever tool you want, and like you say, a knife, it is simply a tool. It's the user who can weaponize it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so we need to protect people from people.
Yep.
Not technology.
That's a good way of looking at it, as it addresses that immediate fear that a lot of people have, because we tend to, in part of human nature, fear what we don't understand, right? So therefore, when these technologies are almost getting out of control and beyond our understanding, it's very scary for the everyday person. Even, constantly I'm meeting people on a day-to-day basis like that. And I think that frame of reference of we need to protect people from people is a very good way of looking at it. Obviously, there's no doubt that this stuff is going to be absolutely affecting industry across the board. It's all converging. Every asset of industry, workforce, professional areas are using these types of technology and adapting it more and more. So going back to what this looks like for the schools and the education sector, because they're the ones molding the future generations, what do you think teachers should be doing to introduce blockchain in schools? Is that even something that someone should be doing?
So what I would like to see happen in schools is more ethical design principles. And when you think about designing for good, designing good tech for society, you think of the different technologies that can be implemented alongside that technology for trust and transparency. And that's where blockchain comes in as one of the foundational technologies. So when they're building, for example, one of the problems, and I had a podcast once and I had an interview with a gentleman, and we talked about programming devices or drones, for example.
Yeah.
And you go and you buy a drone from JB Hi-Fi, and that drone is a toy drone, or you buy a set of two. And the purpose of those drones is so two kids, they've got these little rubber bullets in them, and you can fight each other's drones.
Yeah.
Right. the problem with the programmability of some of these is children are being educated right now in school to be able to code. It's just another language. It's in every single school now. So you need to think like in 10 years' time, once they are fluent in computer programming and they have all the tools that they need, how are they going to adjust or alter drones, for example? And so one of the concerns that a conversation that I had was you could engineer a drone, add real bullets, instead of it being programmed to shoot the other drone, could you put a face or your enemy, your high school enemy, and could you program that face to recognize this face? And, because it's already got all of that software and the engineering's already done, the drone's ready to go. There is a chance that our children will be able to do different things with self-driving cars.
We're already in a Black Mirror episode.
Right? And I don't want to go down that road, but what I'm saying is children right now are being taught how to speak fluently in programming. And I think we need to introduce ethical design principles from the outset before they even start to speak that language. And just say, and also obviously we need to have some frameworks in place at the, I guess the Department of Education level, like that needs to be put in there as well. I do worry that that's an oversight.
Yeah. Absolutely. I can see how this, if there's no foundational, I think, ethics and morals governing these thought processes, then it's that thing of, even when the computer was invented and we had laptops, there's so much damage that could be done with a laptop, with a good laptop these days that you can just buy consumer, and a phone, right? So if you, arming yourself with that knowledge is very easy because you can just go on YouTube and then learn these things.
Yeah, that's right.
But if you can go, how do you actually use this? So it is that coming back to that human element of morals, ethics, good principles, alongside the tech skills. And this is actually resonating really well with me because it's one of the things that we've been constantly saying. If you're thinking about things, for example, in the sustainable development sphere, economic, social, and environmental balance means that you have to think about humans, you have to think about the ripple effects, you have to think about finances as well. You almost don't have room to go, how does this only affect me? You are servicing things for the good. So love that, actually. So that makes it a bit simpler for educators, I think, because one of the biggest, constantly I hear teachers and head of departments talk to me and they say, how are we supposed to keep up with these tech? It's changed from 6 months to 3 months now, right? And AI is a completely different landscape. So it's a very difficult job for, I think, teachers and educators to keep up. But if you're looking at, if you got your focus on the human element, this is great. That's what you're teaching. The tech skills can almost be picked up along the way and then they can work with it. So really, really love that, actually. So when something that I always present every speaker in my podcast is the concept of design thinking. So design thinking, and which is sometimes known as creative problem solving or critical thinking. Do you see this playing a role with blockchain? Kind of ambush you there a little bit.
I think, look, you have to, it's a tool. You build with it. And there are so many different applications that you can use it for. And it doesn't really matter what technology you're building with. It all comes down to that anyway.
Yeah.
You do have to be quite careful with how you implement it. A lot of the time it's not really supposed to be where people put it. You need to really consider, is this the use case? Is this going to solve a problem? Is this really what we're trying to do here? Or can we just use Excel?
Fair.
You do have to think really critically about what you put into your tech stack. Always.
Yeah, there you go. I think that's a good, hearing it from, I think, professionals like you is always a, I think, valid point for students or even teachers or educators listening, because then it reinforces going, this is what's actually happening in industry. they can say something a million times, but sometimes students tend to ignore it. But hearing it from the actual people doing it absolutely goes a long way. So when if you're looking at a student, let's say in high school now, or even junior school, and they're interested in learning blockchain, what do you think they should be doing now, thinking about maybe the next 10 years?
So I think it's really important to really zoom out onto all of the technologies, because blockchain doesn't exist by itself. It's implemented, like we said, alongside others. I would say, have a look at cryptography and think about quantum at the same time. Blockchain itself is going to evolve into quantum blockchains, or leveraging from quantum cryptography.
Wow.
So that will evolve in the next couple of years. IBM is they're doing a fair bit with blockchain, and they also have their quantum computers, or they've got 2 of them. And so we need to build blockchains that are quantum resistant, and that's a whole other conversation to have. And the industry is actually quite divided on why that's the case, but essentially it's cryptography that is the foundation of a blockchain, and that encryption, which allows for the immutability, and no one can break it or hack it or add another transaction to it.
For layman terms, do you know, would you be able to describe what cryptography is?
It's essentially, cryptography is across everything, including your banking. It's if you are on your computer and you log into your email, you log into your banking, there's a code that's going on that's encrypting and decrypting as you access the different layers of that website as you go into the back end. So that surface UX layer that you log into, there's all sorts of code in the background that blocks anyone apart from you from accessing that information.
Yeah.
It's definitely an unlocking process. That unlocking process is cryptography. And having a technology like blockchain that is literally just built on cryptography is very, very secure.
Yeah.
But so you need to understand that, and where the value of that is, and why it's important in the future, when there's going to be, where everyone will be 1 foot in the digital world, 1 foot in the physical world. So that security of everything you do, and all that knowledge, and all of that that privacy, and your whereabouts, and what you're, which metaverse you're in, and what you're doing, and who you're talking to,
Yes.
all of that needs to be secured. But what will happen is, at the moment it's secured because it takes, I don't know.
It's almost specialized skill right now.
It is, but quantum itself will be able to decrypt very quickly. So the reason why we want quantum cryptography is because if we have the cryptography that we have existing now across many websites, if a quantum computer, or if some world leader in quantum computing, and there's a global race at the moment, every university is invested, every government is invested, Australia's definitely invested.
Absolutely.
The person or the country or the jurisdiction that wins that race will have the power to be able to decrypt different platforms and services, right?
If we, touch wood, but if we ever, I think, hit a world war, I feel like it's going to be a very, very different type of a world war than what we've seen.
Yeah,
so it's almost scary, but again, I think you got to constantly, even I'm doing myself, is going back to ethical principles, good design. That version gives it a really good understanding then. Okay, so there's cryptography. AI is obviously playing a role in it. It's kind of just figuring its way out. Quantum is part of it. Are there any other techs that students or teachers that are interested in learning or implementing blockchain should be looking at?
I think you should be very adaptable. I would never, right now, at this current moment in time for humanity, say to focus on one thing. I would, just because if you want to get ahead in this world, and particularly in technology, you need to think, if you can, 10 years ahead and just imagine what the world will look like.
Yeah.
And then think about how is that world enabled and what are the technologies that are enabling that world to exist, because humans will want speed, they'll want accessibility, they'll want to have one touch this and one touch that, or even think this or blink this and this happens. So in that world, we have IoT systems, which will need blockchain to secure that. You'll need quantum for the speed. You'll need energy efficiency. I think one of the things that we're really not paying attention to at the moment is the energy drain that it takes to go onto ChatGPT and build a photo or a picture, right?
Yep.
Like, we need energy efficiency, and to do that, we need to innovate and to invest in clean energy solutions and efficient energy solutions that isn't probably coal. So,
well, the knee-jerk reactions from some of the political context around the world is looking at it in a very scary way, and I'm not sure how many people are looking and tuning into the news. But if you're, all of a sudden, because of this AI boom, we're now considering bringing back nuclear power as well as okay, we know nuclear power, we don't have time to innovate, so therefore here's a quick solution. So that, I think, is where the problem is, because we're not actually solving a problem, we're just putting a band-aid over a cancer, and that's kind of a very, very problematic stepping stone towards future. But we almost can't do that, ignore that as well. So it's this really tough situation that we've kind of worked ourselves into in this current day of evolution.
yeah.
Fair enough. Well, look, one of the last questions I do want to ask is, do you have any advice for educators? Thinking about the blockchain tech, what's your advice for them? Any resources, anything that they should read up on, anything at all?
So I would there's a lot of short courses that you can go to from a number of different universities, and Queensland TAFE is offering blockchain courses for free.
There you go.
So you can get I think it's a graduate diploma in blockchain for business. I might have to just send you the link on that.
Absolutely.
And New South Wales might follow suit soon, because it's one of those skills that's in demand and in shortage. Well, actually all tech skills are, which is interesting, because I feel like every child and every young person is fully equipped to engage digitally and across all of this stuff.
That says a lot.
Yeah, that's right. So, I mean, is there a shortage, or is there this is just part of the young people's lives, and it's not like a job that they see themselves working in, because, it's just a piece of them. But yeah, I would say for educators, it is very important to be across the tools that these young people are going to need when they build their different businesses. Yeah. And that language as well, you need to understand that each business, like, even if you're teaching business or if you're teaching engineering, every single one of these industries requires multiple different technologies. So it doesn't matter what industry you're in, you just need to think about what technologies are you going to need to leverage from? What are your experts going to need to leverage from? And how can you benefit your industry? And blockchain just fits into most industries. So being across that and how to implement it, where to go, how to not fall victim to some bad players and bad actors, but that's in every industry as well. And also focus on the technology, not the various applications. Learn about that first, and then maybe dive into crypto.
Absolutely. There you go. I think some valuable advice there. And the last question I do want, it's been 40 minutes. I think people are going to be loving this episode, because I've been tuning into almost every word that you've been saying as well. The last question is a bit of a random one, but I've been kind of always thinking, what should I be asking? And this is something that I thought, because of the thing you mentioned about the great convergence and thinking about 10 years from now. If you could make a rule for a law, almost a human nature law, for 10 years from now, would you have one?
Do no harm.
Do no harm. There you go. So even if you can't do no harm, that means this technology can be used in a very, very positive way. So there you go. Thank you so much.
this has been ridiculously awesome. I think it's a very exciting space, but also kind of scary as well. But if you're feeding that curiosity, I think a lot of people will have a lot of fun and do some amazing work. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Pleasure.
That's it for today's episode. Now it's time to take action and build on the learnings to get inspired. First up, jump onto rashansenanayaka.com/podcast and check out the show notes, links, and other relevant learning materials from this amazing episode. Next, if you learned something new today, click that subscribe button and set yourself up to receive live notifications on future episodes, as well as more opportunities to learn from our amazing guests, brands, and speakers. Last but not least, it's time to have your say. Join the conversation and share your thoughts and feedback on today's episode with a review, all while joining many others with a 5-star rating for Inspiring Design with Rashan Senanayaka. Till next time.